Hey, what is up, you guys? Today, I wanted to talk about the current state of the Yu-Gi-Oh TCG product situation because there's so much going on. There's so many different topics like reprints and card prices and rarity structures. And so instead of just talking about it myself, I actually wanted to get two of my friends who know a lot more about this topic and engage with it a lot more regularly. So I introduce Ruxin, who everybody knows, because, I mean,
Hi.
you open packs. It's kind of the big pack opening channel. And also, I've got Jonathan Moore from House of Champs, who has been doing Yu-Gi-Oh! Market watches for like how many years now?
What's good, APS? And I think I'm on 7 years. I know it's been maybe since 2015 about. I know I started during Burning Abyss format, so it might be 2015.
Yeah, and I feel like you guys just have literally more hands-on time with, the cards, their prices, pull rates, products, all of it. And I want to just get into all of that today. So I've got sort of a rough outline. We will, go through it. We don't have to stick to it perfectly. We can talk about things that we think are sort of going well. We can talk about solutions, but there are a lot of concerns. And I think the best place to start with this discussion is probably what, like, in you guys' words, you can sort of each take it. What is happening to the Yu-Gi-Oh product world right now in a general sense? Like, what is the issue going on?
They're just not making good the product that appeals to multiple bases. They have lost a lot of the collectors in terms of cannibalizing their own high rarity cards by reprinting those cards in very similar rarities right within a year's time most often. So like we can go all the way back to the adventure stuff being collector rare, and suddenly it's already in the OTS ultis even though it has an upgrade, or Starlights that became QCR, and most recently, we're going to have quarter century secret rares becoming Starlights. It's just this kind of cycle of the high-end stuff that would prop up some value inside of product, and it's getting blown out at the knees where it's like, oh yeah, within a year's time we're gonna do it again. And so there goes the whales, and then you have the casuals, right? And it's really hit or miss what will actually vibe with them, because different people in the comment section are gonna be like, I liked the chibi cards, and then I had a mass of people saying these just look goofy, these aren't that collectible, and then the Blue Eyes still has a good amount of value, so there's people out there buying that because there's Blue Eyes collectors on their own. So you have all these complicated intertwining things hitting to where you have to try to find this appeal to the casual base and competitives, and you're losing the top end collectors for a lot of the cards.
Yeah, I'm for sure. Ruxin, go ahead.
Yeah, everything he said basically, but essentially it's either meta or bust. You have a great deck like Injustice Hunters or nothing, because as he said, all the collection stuff is just out the window. I was opening Justice Hunters recently, and I was pulling collector rares, and I'm like, who wants these? Because we know it's going to get another collector rare in Rarity Collection Starlight or whatever is going to come out. And then you could also have the Starlight version. So it's like, these are such a weird spot because they have a collector rare option. I guess maybe collector rare people that like collector rares might want these, but then they might just do another collector rare of it. So it's such a weird spot for certain cards. And then I also noticed stuff like Edge Imp Chain being reprinted again already. I know this is just a random card, but I pulled it and I'm like, didn't we get this in Stampede in like 7 rarities, I think? I'm like, we're already putting this back in here. We've done so many reprints of everything. We have to put it into another set couple months later when we already have 17 different rarities of it. So just so many weird things going on, and I'm pulling cards and going, wait, why? And that's me.
Yeah, see, so I agree with both of what you guys have said. I also think that something that feels like it's happening is, even, and this kind of is maybe more of like a mainline set, side sets thing that I have noticed a lot myself, is like, I feel like people just aren't actually having as much fun opening a product now. Like, it seems like a lot of core sets, your Supreme Darkness, your Alliance Insight, your Duelist Advance, people are just, they're feeling less inclined to buy them. And I think that, like, that seems to be hitting shops pretty hard because, if I can find a box of Duelist Advance, or Duelist, what is the Duelist Advance on eBay for like $45, or, TCG Player or something for $45, and my shop is trying to sell it for like 75 or 80 or something like that, and I don't buy it, like it kind of can feel lose-lose. And then also, I've got some thoughts on side sets, things like kind of the Battles of Legends, the Maze of the Masters, that I feel like, I've already had issues with their pull rates and things like that, but I also just think that like what's in the sets is not seeing really much use, and I think it could maybe be better allocated elsewhere. So
I want to go back just a bit because you were talking about product not being as fun. I feel like the 2020 product changes are largely responsible for product failing. We went with two bangers out the gate under the new model, right? We had Eternity Code and Rise of the Duelist being our sets that introduced it. So people were like, oh, this isn't so bad, because I was screaming at the top of my lungs, guys, half the set is holographic, and now we're getting 8 commons per pack, no rare. So the commons just get so repetitive. There can't be.
Real quick, tell me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you explain that exactly what that is? Because I know what it is, but just for the people who don't, like.
All right, so back in 2019, right, we had rares that were in the core set. So it's a different slot for cards that could be pulled that often wouldn't be that expensive either. They took that away and basically shoved it all into holo pull rates. So we went from 8 secret rares to 10. That may not seem like a big deal, but mathematically now, out of an entire case of booster boxes, 12 booster boxes, you mathematically cannot pull a playset of every secret rare anymore. And you couldn't before anyways because of short printing for the most part, unless you got extremely lucky, but mathematically you no longer get that. And so then also ultra rares upped from, I believe it was 10 to 14 total, and that's still a very tough thing to pull. And I think that put it down from like 4.5 to 3.8 or something. I'd have to get a calculator out. And then we also got just so many super rares, and we're down to what? It's like 18 supers a box, and now the pool is even bigger. So you're seeing less of the super rares. So basically you're seeing less of each single in the holo slot, and we just are getting tons of commons in product. And I'm going to shift now to the side sets you were talking about. They are absolutely ruined compared to what they used to be. We used to have all foil deck building sets, and we've seen tactical masters with 2 meta decks, right? Runic and Labyrinth, and Labyrinth is a fan favorite. Runic, a lot of people do not like that deck, but it was meta, and it failed. It was $40 a box during its run before reprints. And so you're seeing you have to have 2 amazing meta warping decks, not just options, in order to sell these recent deck building sets, like Justice Hunters having pretty much 3, but in order to have the power level of those decks having an impact and the product doing good, you basically just have to fill it with power creep. And that's the problem with core sets, is they're pushing it all into these when you could take a deck out of there and put it in a core set, right? Yet the core sets just don't feel all that impactful, and they feel like DLC despite being the main boxes we're supposed to get. So this structure change within them, like going back to the deck building sets, I know it's a lot of numbers. We used to have only 20 secret rares, and you would pull 24 a box. Now we're seeing that they upped it, by the way, from 3 to 4 ultra rares a box, for a grand total of 48 for the pool of 10 ultra rares. And so you see 4.8 of each ultra, when used to you would see over 12 of each secret, except for the ones they short printed, which Makaba, for example, and you would pull 5.6 per case average or something weird. Some of the shorts used to not be so short that were in demand and would be $50, $60 cards, yet you would have value in casually going to open a box because you have almost a 50-50 at seeing that $60 card. Now you have a 1 in 4 chance, 1 in 3 chance of seeing the chase card, unless there's tons of them.
Yeah.
I'm done with the rant.
No, I got it.
I'm gonna go back to the fun of opening, because that's kind of what I do, is open. So in terms of core sets, why have they not been as fun for me specifically is, I kind of talked about this in some of my other videos, but with QCRs being like the real chase, as you said, it's like secrets, ultras, supers all in the same slot, and then maybe a high rarity card. So if you don't, you're looking at commons, they're great and everything. Like I like some of the retrains or whatever, but that's not going to excite you about opening a pack after a couple packs. You see those commons over and over. So you're really looking at that high rarity stuff. So that quarter centuries, as we know, they're 3 in a case. So really, really hard to get in the core sets. But then there's all these side sets like the Megatons. You get Starlights in every pack. You have Rarity Collection where you're getting QCRs and stuff like that in every few packs. Like it seems so easy to get those. So when you're opening those sets, it's like you're on drugs or something. It's like adrenaline. Like every single time you're pulling something crazy and something shiny. And then you go back to a core set and you're like, oh, I have to open 72 packs to actually get something out of here. This is kind of rough. So we've been trained to like see shiny. Oh, so many nice cards in like these stampedes and these bonanzas. And I love opening those. I'm not going to lie. They're super fun. But then when you get back to the core sets, it's almost like back to reality. You're like, oh, I have to open multiple boxes to see one shiny card. This is insane. It just kills the core set fun. And it's not like you can't have fun. It's not like I'll even say like Alliance Insight had Dark Magician Girl, the Magician's Apprentice or whatever it was called. Huge card, like really, really big card. But if you want 1 in 25 times 1 every 4 boxes, you get really, really hard to pull that card. Then you have like the Dragon Master, whatever, the Lords or whatever. Like there's some cool chase cards in there, but because I'm so used to, and other people are so used to just pulling shiny, we're not getting that anymore.
Yeah, it almost feels like a downgrade, right?
Yeah, you're like, oh, I have to open a bunch of packs. I have to get through all this garbage just to get to my shiny card. You know what I mean?
I do. I actually was going to say, too, I think, and this is another thing that we'll probably get into more later, is I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh has almost run into this really interesting thing, and I guess I didn't pick up on it until the last couple of years, probably with Rarity Collection, which is its own topic, really. But, like, I think that new Yu-Gi-Oh cards, in a lot of players' eyes, feel useless. Like when you look at a core set, like, your Supreme Darkness and Alliance Insight, you kind of see your 3 or 4 playable cards. Maybe there's a full playable archetype that's like new and being introduced, but that's typically kind of being pushed to the, deck builder sets. But like you'll pull these commons and it feels like there's kind of nowhere to play them. And so they feel even worse by comparison. And then compared to like a core set where, like you were saying, Ruxin, like, I'm going to sit here, open this, pull the commons, they're kind of whatever, and I have to try really hard to pull a cool, like, valuable secret or something. I think people just get more excited for reprints, and that seems like that's almost just it's a product of how Yu-Gi-Oh works, like, because there's not really, like, it's tough to get Dominus Impulse, and so the idea of it being reprinted is exciting, and then furthermore, the idea of like a full reprint set feels like even more exciting, but it means that it's like, I do think it pulls something away from like the appeal of a mainline set when like the cards you pull just there's nowhere they can really be played, and the best ones are like maybe either prohibitively expensive and it's like, well, I would just wait for a reprint. Like it's a weird conundrum. Does anybody else? Does that like?
Yeah, there is I've talked about this a lot with Rhyme Style because we do a lot of these stupid old duels, and where we're open product in the duel, and every time we're like, we'll do a new one. We'll do like Stampede and then we duel. And we get done and we go, why do we ever do this with new Yu-Gi-Oh card? It's so complicated to do because all the cards are like, this archetype you have this card to go with this card. So they don't really fit generically very well,
right,
versus like old cards. And I think that's part of why, like when you pull like one card and you're like, oh, this doesn't really fit with anything I have, it feels even worse because you need like that archetype or that set of cards to actually fit together versus like old Yu-Gi-Oh stuff. You open like a retro pack reprint, every card goes together in a way because they're all just so generic and so old that it makes those newer sets feel a little different. Now, of course, if you buy a bunch of them and you put them in the right spot, a lot of those cards do work. But compared to like opening an old set, you feel like, oh, I pulled this Shining Angel or whatever. If I'm playing an old thing, I can use it or whatever. I feel like there's some, like I put aside so many Goat and Edison cards out of stuff like that. I'm like, oh yeah, I can use that later for this or this or this. With it in new stuff, I'm like, unless it's like a meme card or a card that I think looks cool, I'm just like, common, get out of here.
Yeah, John, what about you?
that goes back to what I was saying, that core sets right now are kind of just DLC. If you go into Duelist Advance, oh look, Sky Striker got an update, Versus got a new card, Lunalight got a new card. What's happening with the archetypes inside? Archmage people were excited for because it gets future support, not because it's playable out the gate, but because,
that's such a
there's
good
going to be
analogy,
more of it.
DLC. Not to cut you off. Yeah, I just thought that's a good analogy for it. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if you're unaware, DLC for video games is downloadable content. It means like it's an update. It's not the main course. It's not the game. Yet these are our core sets. So it's like all of these pieces are updating things, but where's the new archetype in the core set? It's the deck building sets that are failing, that they're using so much power creep on to try to sustain the ultra rare chase pull model, that like it's really bleeding out anything fun being in there besides updates to decks. It's just not feeling like.
So I have a hot take on this, and I've wanted to get you guys' opinions on this because it kind of gets into both main sets and side sets too. I think that with these products like Maze of the Master, where the way I'm oftentimes seeing it, they're basically importing a lot of things from sort of miscellaneous Japanese like OCG packs, and they'll cram them into something like Maze of the Master. So like they had like the Clear World stuff, for instance. There's not that many people looking for that. Maybe there's a few, but like they'll just cram it all into this set. They'll take some stuff from that light legendary duelist set, and they'll call it Maze of the Master. I think that the way that the appeal of core Yu-Gi-Oh sets is falling so much, what you guys have described, where like, you need to get these archetype specific things, and so it makes opening one single box kind of feel arbitrary. I think that a lot of those products should just go. Like, if they're not going to be seen as useful anyway, I think that they might be better placed as like structure decks or something, where, you just release Odeon cards as like a structure, or you just release, some of the things from Battles of Legend as structure decks. And the reason I say that is because what they oftentimes do with those sets is they'll throw in like 2 reprints, like Triple Tactics Thrust, or Primite Lordly Load in Battles of Legend, just enough to maybe kind of keep people on the hook, but otherwise the sets are bad and they don't sell and they sit on shelves and they rot, and it's like, I wonder, how do you guys feel about the side set problem? Because we're talking about things that aren't like Justice Hunters and stuff. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think it all comes down to the product structure. World premiere sets are historically very successful. It's that current ultra rare collector rare model that just isn't working. And also short printing. They're short printing the chase import, right? Perulia, Thrust, they're all shorted on their ratios, meaning you're seeing them in less boxes. So the average person opening a box isn't actually feeling like they're getting the chase after that card. Right now, Maze has a $77 to $80 Ultra Perulia because it's short, yet the boxes are selling for $32 because the consumers have realistically gotten the consumers are smarter these days. Oh, I'm not gonna see that probably. Even if I bought 3 boxes versus the Perulia almost being the same price, that short print, I'm probably not going to see it. And what else am I gonna see along the way? Man with the Mark, when it came out, was cool, and it's already been power crept to a large degree. Like, it's still playable, don't get me wrong, but like now here's Justice Hunters, and it would really be trying to keep up. And then also, it's them cannibalizing rarities, yet still trying to use them to sell. I bring up Silent Magician level 8 a lot, and people go, huh? Because I bring up that Silent Magician herself from the Duelist pack was a $50 Ultra until her reprint. And this is before any of the Shining Sarcophagus support got announced. That was a $50 Ultra just because people collected it, because it was cool, because it was hard to get, and it was in this one specific product. Now you have a quarter-century secret rare Yugi and dual art Silent Magician level 8 that's 1 in every 2 cases, and it can only go for $20. Like, it's this mix of them trying to push this model and it not working, rather than the product itself actually failing, I feel.
Okay, yeah.
Another thing about what you said, Paul, about putting a couple reprints in these sets to sell them, is we're running out of options for that. Like, a lot of times, like, what set was it that put like talents in and like a couple of Droplet or something right after Rarity 1? Like 2 years later they put it in Rarity after Rarity 1, and they're like, this will help sell it, and they're like $2 cards. It's like, Yeah, sure, it's nice if you pull it, but I mean, everyone already has this from Rarity. They have the Super, the Ultra, the Secret, the Collector Rare, the Ultra. They have one of them, so like they don't really need this anymore. So you kind of hurt yourself with that.
Yeah,
And can I do a quick rant on
yeah, sure, go
why
ahead.
are
Yeah.
all the commons rares in those sets? It just bugs
Right
me.
before you do that, I want to tie in real quick. I think you're talking about this year's battles,
Yeah,
and that's another problem Konami has is the OCG dropped the battles marketing. It's not Advent Calendar, Jesus. I'm
Animation
boomering out
Chronicle, is
of
that
it.
what that is?
Animation Chronicle, yes.
Yeah.
We actually talked
yeah.
about this briefly. And so it's Animation Chronicle now. They've moved on, yet Battles has historically been successful, and Konami can't let that go. Just like they ran Duelist packs into the ground with Legendary Duelist. The OCG did 6 of those and reverted back to Duelist pack, yet they're still like, this is a Legendary Duelist, that's a Legendary, everything's Legendary Duelist, come on, you like Legendary Duelist. They're doing that with Battles also. And that's all I wanted to tie in, is that, like, they have a problem with their marketing to where like they push it into the ground.
What were you saying, by the way, Ruxin, about the commons and rares?
I just hate those collector rare sets that they put in one slot for super collector rare, ultra rare, and then everything else is a rare, like it matters, because they don't even do rares anymore. But they're like, this is just a common that's a rare. It's just
Yeah.
very annoying. I'm like, why are these not commons? Because they are commons, they just have silver names.
It's kind of bizarre.
very annoying.
Okay, so that kind of brings me into my own rant about like, and so there's gonna be we've already talked about it a little, and we're gonna probably talk about this a lot more. Is like this rarity cannibalization thing. But before I get into it, because I'm glad you mentioned the whole like, why are these like rares instead of commons thing? I think that Konami is unironically like, I think that they are having like rarity like sickness or something. Like there was a point in time, and I'm sure you guys will both remember this well, where like a common and a rare and a super and an ultra, like there were just these very defined things. Like you knew kind of just exactly what they were within a set, and like I don't know. I guess now I just feel like they throw rarities around into anything, anywhere at all. Like it's just, we're gonna make rares and a common just because like there's a little bit of foil on that or whatever, so like that's fine. And then also like you can get these as collector's rares, but then also like you can get the same things that are collector's rares in this set, I'm talking about like Justice Hunters for instance, as like a QCR or now a Starlight. And it's just, but then also tins don't have regular secrets, they've got like prismatic secrets. And it's just, I think something about it in the last few years, I feel like maybe the 25th anniversary thing started this, where it's just, there's like this rarity sickness. I would call it abundance, but I feel like that's a positive word for it. I feel like it's just, does anybody else get that impression that they're just kind of like, this rarities are just, they don't mean anything, because like when everything just has a different rarity structure than the last pack did, I think it just all makes it
We'll call it rarity disparity.
Yeah.
I think that what you said about understanding, like back in the day, they all meant the same thing. Like a rare was one every pack, a common was the other stuff, an ultra was one every 12 or whatever it was. And they were consistent. Like it was like this. I guess they did change the ultra rare ratios from original to GX randomly, and it got a little bit harder to pull. But for the most part, it was like the same tier list of rarities. Like this is high rarity, then this, and you kind of got that. And now it's like this pack Starlights are one every pack. In this pack, they're one every 4 boxes.
It's
this
inconsistent.
Collector rare, like that, they're one every 3 boxes. And this one, they're one every couple packs. It's just weird. It's confusing. I thought this was rare. It's like, no, it's not. It's actually common.
Banking on this idea that player, like a highly casual player, we're talking about someone who just, they just like opening these packs for fun. I think that they bank on that player just not knowing the difference and getting the same amount of excitement and joy kind of arbitrarily, if that makes sense. Where it's just like, yeah, like, okay, because I opened a mainline set and I pulled a QCR or whatever a few like months ago, and like I'm very happy. So because the QCR made me happy, I will also be happy about the tins where I get a QCR in every pack. Like they want to like replicate that joy, but like change the ratios around from product to product. And I find that like a little bit deceptive, I think, as in addition to the whole devaluing of the stuff. It feels like you're kind of really taking the casual player on a ride. And John, what about you?
This is the conversation that a lot of viewers don't typically like to hear. But you need hard to get things in product. And I'm not talking a single, I'm talking variants of a single. So let's say there's a go all the way back. Easy access Magician of Faith, right? Like super easy to get. And then you make a high rarity. And that happened back then, right? You have the Champion Pack Super that's valued and people love. And you have the rare version. It's the same thing today in product, but instead, by watering down and making easy access versions of them, you bring them all down in some sense to where only the super strong singles are able to stay on top. And things like that Silent Magician I mentioned that used to be sought after will no longer be sought after because there's just so many to go after. There's too many for a binder when you do them in several tens, right? Like if we're going to do a bunch of tens, you're going to fill up an entire binder and it all looks the same, super shiny, and oh no, I'm starting the next binder. And maybe that's what Konami hopes for, but it's not what's happening in reality with most collectors. Instead, they're like, this is too much. And to your point on rarities and casuals, I scroll through Reddit from time to time. I'm everywhere in the internet because I like to feel the heartbeat of the community everywhere. And with Reddit, there is a thread multiple times every week. What rarity is this card? And it's usually Prismatic Collector Rare, by the way. It's almost always that one. But they're like, what is this? I'm not sure. And I also loved how anything OCG, they're like, oh, that's Prismatic. OCG Collector Rare, Prismatic. OCG Ultimate Rare, Prismatic. OCG Secret Rare, Prismatic.
I will say, I found that to be very strange with the Rarity collection sets where they would call, like, they will take an existing rarity, call it something else, and, like, it's sort of, like, basically the Prismatic Collector's Rare. Is that what it's called? The Prismatic Collector's Rare?
Yes.
Yeah.
I really despise that rarity because I'm a person who likes collector's rares, actually. Like, I liked when that was what made those, Ancient Guardians types packs, like, unique. I liked them. I thought they were pretty cool. It was unique, like, when it first came out. Then these rarity collections started doing them, but then they call them something different, and they have kind of that weird, like, film over them, like, whatever that... I don't... It just feels like it's like a weird derivative thing, and it's not the same collector's rare, but, like, you're using the word collectors in it. And I guess you're just, is the goal just to kind of like confuse people and like just drum up a sense of equivalence?
Mission accomplished.
Like, yeah,
I think what it actually is them again trying to market poorly. And they're like, oh, look, collector rares are the chase in this set. You can get them over here, but special.
I've had so many questions about, hey, what rarity is this? And I'll say like, that's a Prismatic Collector Rare. And they're like, oh, Collector Rare? And I'm like, no, Prismatic
Yeah, no, it's
Collector
Prismatic
Rare.
Collector. Yeah.
It's like, no, it's a different thing. And like, oh, okay.
I think this is a great...
What does that mean?
This is a great segue then into a really big one. Rarity collection. As a concept. The first Rarity collection, 2023, fall 2023. And then the three that followed it. That's to say like Rarity Collection 2 and then like Stampede and Bonanza. What made this product start out so well, and where did it go? Because I feel like it's had some ups and some downs, and like I want to know you guys' thoughts on the family of Rarity collection sets, the RAO
all right,
family.
We can all agree here that ice cream is good, right?
Right.
If you eat too much ice cream too fast, you don't feel so good.
Right.
They've had Rarity collections since 2014, I believe, in Japan. And over here, we threw out 4 of them in 2 years.
And they did 4 in Japan, right? 4 total?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so we did the
over
same
a
amount
decade.
in 2 years as they did in 11.
Yeah.
Sorry,
go ahead.
It's basically the too much ice cream. We shoved our faces with it, and like the second one flopped immediately when I feel like it shouldn't. It had some very strong contenders, but a lot of them had fallen out of the metagame to some degree, yet ones like Crossout and Droll feel underappreciated to a bit. Also, Rarity 2 kind of blundered where they tried to make us buy more of it all at once, and the average consumer is not going to buy the most expensive box ever all of a sudden when a lot of these cards were not current and present in the metagame, but were more like, oh, Masquerena used to be pretty collectible, and here it is over here. And it's like not being played as much at this point anymore, though. And then it just brings down the nicer version with it as this set blunders. So it was a combination mix, because a lot of people with Rarity 3 were like, this feels way better, even though it's more expensive per card, because I'm not spending as much per pack when I decide to buy a pack.
Yeah.
Right. So that first Rarity collection, there was no way that was going to flop. Like, they had the entire pool to work with. They had every single card to choose from, and they chose bangers. They chose amazing cards, all those awesome hand traps and everything that was in there. It was, of course, going to blow up. Their huge mistake was, I remember myself, and I think John as well, we're talking about, let's wait a few years for the next one. Their huge mistake was not only doing it, like announcing it a couple months after, which was ridiculous how soon they announced it. But secondly, the marketing, as you mentioned, they immediately marketed it like, hey, we just gave you the best set we've probably ever had, or one of the best sets we've ever had. We can't possibly follow that up, but you're also going to pay more for it. You're going to pay $10 a pack on this, or whatever.
Yeah, that $10 a pack
insane
thing was very bizarre.
Yeah, and like right after we just got Rarity 1, and it was cheaper and it was better. And even though Rarity 2 wasn't a terrible set, it's like, you're going to take a worse product for more money right away. And that's just not going to fly, right? It just doesn't make sense.
I think, too,
I think, real quick, I just want to notate, it actually wasn't Konami TCG choosing the cards for the first Rarity. They directly ported one of the Rarity collections and just took out Maxi and Ghost Rare Nibiru, I believe.
Yeah.
And that was going to bang no matter what.
Yeah, it was a really good set list, but I don't want to give the TCG office where it ain't due.
Yeah, I mean, I was
Yeah,
going to say,
right.
too, with these, like, Rarity collections, I sometimes get the impression that the excitement around them is good. I think that they really, I want to say, kind of like tried to coast on that excitement for longer than they really probably deserve to be able to. Rarity Collection 1, amazing, right? Like, just best Yu-Gi-Oh set in years in many people's eyes. But this, I remember hearing stories about like this set revitalizing some locals just because it was that exciting for people to finally be able to like just get staples in easy fashion. People were trading again. Like, it was a whole thing. Rarity Collection 2, obviously, like, you know, I don't even want to say that it like shit the bed, but I mean, I think it was a downgrade, you know. And then once you got to Rarity, what was the third one, Stampede or Bonanza?
It was Bonanza.
Yeah. With Bonanza, I thought that the retro pool or the nostalgia pool was a really good concept, actually. It still made it, I think that sort of obfuscated the fact that like they were still running out of good cards to put in these Rarity collections. Like, you're just, like you were saying, Ruxin, like you're just naturally going to run out of cards like when you're pumping out 4 of these in 2 years, because there's just only so many staples to go around. But to get to my main point with this, I fear that Rarity collections have effectively destroyed a lot of the appeal in any other reprint set. Like, it coincides with the 10s getting progressively worse year to year, taking out promos and things like that. But like, I really do, when I overhear conversations at locals, I feel like a lot of people are just like, I'm just going to wait for the Rarity collection. That kind of, you know, you mentioned earlier, John, that already that affects mainline sets. Like, kind of just the sentiment that like, you're getting it so good with the Rarity collection, why do you want to go back to like a mainline set? But then also like, I think that that's affecting your Maze sets and your Battles of Legends, where like, do I want to like open Battles of Legend that has like Primite Lordly Load and like Forbidden Droplet or something as like kind of its only possible good reprints? Or would I just buy a Rarity collection? Like, because the average person, I just think that they have a limit to, they're not going to buy every single thing that comes out every year in abundance. They're going to sort of pick and choose. And even compared to 10s, I think that Rarity collections felt more exciting for people. And now it's like left a lot of these other reprint sets in an awkward spot where they feel just less valuable.
How battles used to balance is you have some imports, you have star reprints, and then you have upgrades, right? And of course, every upgrade's been shinier and shinier. Now we have, you know, back to Starlights from QCRs. But basically, the balance is get you interested in these new cards. Here's a shiny reprint, and you would actually be able to pull those reprints. The first ever battles had 0 short prints, and if you bought a box, you got almost everything. And they immediately discontinued that despite the success. And the other thing about battles was the timing, specifically being right before the WCQ, which the EU just missed out on with this one because of that delay. But we actually got it in time, so Orcust is viable, right? So you have an exciting new deck to shake up the metagame right before the WCQ, Star reprints right before the WCQ, and it's supposed to be also about timing specifically with the battle sets as well. That's why I don't think battles is a waste. It's really like, it's before reprint season can kick off, but how they've handled choking out ratios and making it not worth it for the average consumer to go buy a box, and only people chasing these rarities that they're no longer chasing, they've again ruined this entire model where it could still be successful, but they don't put the cards in the amounts worth it for the average person to go buy up boxes.
I think what you said, Paul, about your locals or people you've heard being like, I'm just going to wait for Rarity, that's where they messed up. It's like the Rarity itself, sure. I don't think one Rarity set every few years would have ruined everything, because then you don't expect it every 6 months. It's not like, okay, they just came out with Rarity 1. I bought Rarity 1. I'll wait for Rarity 2 to get all my other reprints or whatever I need because I know it's coming out in 6 months. If they did one and then they waited 3-4 years and did another one, you wouldn't wait for the next Rarity if it's 4 years later, right? You would just get excited when it happens and you would buy a lot of it. You're like, oh, they're doing another Rarity. I'm so excited. I love the first one in 2019 and now it's 2024 or whatever, like the years are. Like, then you don't have that expectation where you just hold off on all these other sets, even if they're pretty decent, because you don't know when it's coming and it might be years down the road. And then when it does get announced and dropped, they have years to work with in terms of the reprints they're working with. They have years to work with in terms of anticipation and build up for the next set. And it's just going to be a success every time versus, okay, I know I'm getting 2 Rarity sets every year. I'm not buying another set unless it has a card I absolutely need, or even then I might just buy the single because I'm just going to wait for the reprints of everything else in Rarity.
Too much ice
I'd
cream.
also like to say that the average consumer of the Cards of Rarity collection are most likely casual now over collector. If you go through the top 6 cards currently of Bonanza, it's Blue Eyes White Dragon, Dark Magician Girl, Dark Magician, 2 Sky Striker cards, which are, I guess, modern collectibles to some degree because people max Rarity that deck, kind of like Mermail and decks that would be played through the ages, right? Sky Striker's back once again, it's topping. And then the 6th card is Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon.
Yeah, surprise.
It's the nostalgia pool is actually doing what it should in terms of nostalgia, specifically for this set where it fails elsewhere because there's so much to go after. It's beating the top replayable cards for past formats because a lot of those players would actually prefer the old school max Rarity from the time. And I know Konami's trying to change that too. That's a whole nother can of worms.
Well, I'm glad that you actually said that because, all right, well, so that whole what is max Rarity thing that's a section that I want to get to. It's gonna be coming up in a sec. So like hold your thought on that because I do want to talk about that. Real quick, I got a couple of lightning rounds for us. Let's happened to tins?
Promos died.
Okay.
As well as they put them right before or after or they had Rarity right after just to cannibalize the whole thing.
But I do want to actually do a small rant on this. Tins used to have an identity through their promos, even the mega tins. Like, oh, that's the Ghost Ogre tin. Oh, that's the Pot of Desires tin. Like, the Star reprint being there could still regain value later to where Konami could make money off it years later. And it gave guaranteed sales because you had something that you for sure could get. And the last product we had that with was Maven's. And I remember scoffing because it was sleeves, but I had so many comments. It just feels good to know that you're getting something for sure. And I was like, dang,
agree.
we're that down bad. We are that down bad that, oh boy, 1 in 6 chance of a certain sleeve. And it's like, oh no.
Another thing with these tins too is like, you know, I think, you know, Ruxin, you were sort of mentioning how like their timing doesn't really seem like it's great. And also, like you said, John, no more promos. it feels like all the tins branding identity wise also have run together. Like, you know how like they have like there's like the tin of dueling mirrors, the tin of dueling heroes. Like, am I the only person
I have
who just
no
kind of finds
idea which one is which. I could not tell you if you asked me.
I can never
And yet
tell.
it's still Mega Pack. It's still Mega 10, Mega Pack. Yet they're stopped calling it Mega 10s because the 10 started to fail. Whenever something starts to fail, they pivot marketing. Rarity Collection 2 failed, yet the set code's Rarity Collection 3 and 4, but it's Quarter Century Bonanza, Quarter Century Stampede. It's not Rarity Collection anymore, even though it is. Anytime marketing fails, such as the back-to-back is it 10 of Ancient Rivals or whatever the next two in the line of making the tablet were after Dragoon, which also initially flopped, but they made a ban list in the TCG to clear the way for Dragoon, which revived that product. We just see them pivot marketing.
Another quick thing on these tins too, and this is an argument that gets brought up a lot, and I think that there's sort of two sides to it. The tins have such a large card pool, and that I've heard that come up a lot. Like the fact that opening a tin is unattractive because, like, what was it last year? It was like 400 cards. Or was that the 2023 ones? One year there was like 400 cards, and that kind of sucks because it's just so hard to get an individual thing that you want. Now, historically, tins have always had large card pools. I don't think that that's like terribly new. I think though that it more so highlights that removal of promos and how much it actually hurts the buying experience, because if you buy a tin and you get your 3 mega packs and they're nothing that you want, that sucks. But if it's 2019 and you're still getting a Nibiru with that, or a Dark Ruler No More with that, it certainly softens the blow, right? And
this is the root problem, again, of every product, and I come back to it. It's the pull ratios. I'm very much an advocate of we should all be pulling more of what we want. Why is there 36 super rares versus 100 different secrets? 100 secrets is the chase slot, and yet you used to it was the other way around, right? To like, oh, there'll be 36 different secret rares, and so you'll get, they used to not give as many secrets, though, so like one a pack. So like, you'll be able to pull 36 total, but they'll short print X or Y so that it takes multiple cases. Yet you would still see most of the secret rares in play sets throughout 3 cases. And also, I do need to bring this up. 10s are cheaper than any other product per case. So 12 10s, it used to be $240, now they're $22 a piece, whatever that adds up to. But vendors at the MSRP, I think, today spend what, like 136 or something. So vendors are able to get these and bust them a lot more, which is why the singles were always so cheap. Now busting them means, oh, in 4 cases I'm barely seeing everything instead of 3 giving me a playset of most of them. And that's the problem. It's that this 100 card pool, and we're back to 1 secret per pack, so 36 per case. It's just like so rough in terms of actually trying to pull what you want.
Yeah. Ruxin, do you have anything you were thinking with the tin stuff?
I mean, it's really just the promo thing. The promo thing. I remember when I would open those 2019 tins back in the day, you'd get those promos and you would almost make your money back on the promos. So it was like, it just felt free. It was like, oh, I get to open packs for free almost. Like those promos were so good. And now it's like, they even tried to bring back the promos when they did like the Stardust and stuff, which was fine, but it was only 1 card. Like they used to give you like 3 or 4.
And it also wasn't a new card. Like that was always a weird one to me.
It was a reprint, and a lot of them were like some of the synchro cards, like some kind of
I know exactly what you're talking
ones. It was
about.
like you get that and you're like, okay, like not really.
You know what the strangest thing to me was when they were putting the token. Was that last year's tins where like the tokens were cards?
Yes.
That you could pull?
I am the only fan of this. Oh. I know. It's my hot take. I'm a token collector, and so the secret rare misprint tokens made me so excited. But even I can see you put it in what slot when these used to be free promos. You put it in the max rarity slot. Like, come on.
Like that.
It should have been in like a super slot or something at least.
Okay.
But again, that goes back to like, it used to be a huge super pool. They flipped it around and made everything harder to get. And like, versus and this is back-to-back products we've mentioned here, the Gold Sark 10s were the most successful ever. And they immediately dropped the model to hide the chase card inside of the set, and like you have to pull it out of the hardest to get set, because in that 10s, guess what? Dragoon's in there, and they made Ultras the hardest to pull because they put the most in the Ultra pool. And so also dropping Mavens after a super home run. Like, why are they doing this? They get the most successful thing, they look at it, and they're like, we're not going to do that again. Like, what?
It can definitely feel like a slap in the face, I think, for people when they do invest in these tins and then they watch a Rarity collection or a Mavens or whatever come out, and then it just sort of feels like, wow, so you were sort of dumb for buying this.
And it continues in the OCG, just like you were saying about how battles felt not worth it to you. What if it was in the Maven style? Because that's what happened in the OCG. They're still continuing the Maven style. And there's like easy production for that. I'm sure they could just print extra sleeves there and stuff when they're doing it. They had special play mats, and instead we get the retail boxes getting the special stuff instead of OTS, where it's like, if you want the tokens, you want the special field centers, go buy the retail boxes instead of supporting your OTS. Like, that's also very backwards to me with modern product.
Here is a pivot. What happened to OTS packs and the ultimate rares inside of them?
Quality really controls. Yep. Jinx.
Yeah. Okay. Whoever wants to take that first.
Go ahead, John.
Ruxin go. I've been yapping.
No, you go ahead. You got it.
Okay, so one is the choices, right? And you've seen them mix more classic things in. Two is quality control and also decisions. Like, Exodia is one of the most classical monsters. Yeah, it comes after not only a super hard to get Starlight that used to be 600 and now is 200 after getting a quarter century secret rare, but there's barely any foiling on it. People call it the pit stain Exodia because you have just that little bit of hollow under his arms. 10% of the card is hollow. What kind of ultimate rare is that? So it's very clear that they're not looking at their finished products when your top ever card pick choice SDK art Blue Eyes comes out and every single corner for the most part is damaged. I've seen only like 3 clean copies out of everybody showing them off between both EU and US print. So it's clear that like they're not as about quality control with these packs, and maybe that's because they don't make money off them because they're shipping them off to locals for locals to make the money off of them. But it's very clear that like their card choices, their foil application, their quality control, all of it's gone downhill, and that takes a lot of the excitement out with it.
Ruxin, where were you? Anything on kind of just on these OTS ultis?
Yeah, I mean, I opened some packs for the Blue Eyes and I got it, and it was, the corner was destroyed. Like it looked horrible, and that's gone back for many. I haven't opened every OTS pack, but pretty much every time I open it, the ultis are either way off center, which is like not really a big deal because you can still play it and everything. But usually they're that, and they either have like curled edges, they have damaged corners, and they're always super stamped through the back, which that doesn't really matter. But it's like, it feels like the cards are like thinner almost.
Does anybody remember the Nibiru? Like from the one that the infamously
how it was
like
misprinted.
Badly.
Yeah.
It also, like, sometimes they'll be not even misprinted in like a fun way. It'll just be like, why is there like a space between the 3 and the 0s in its attack points?
Oh, the no
like,
foil alubers and cherries and stuff too. They are literally common.
So my thing with ultis and OTS packs is when they originally made the change to have like just no more ultis in mainline sets, I liked ultis in mainline sets. Like in a general sense, I liked that. I thought that putting them in OTS packs was still neat and fine in principle. I think what ended up happening, at least in the last few years to me, is QCRs and their abundance, the sheer amount of QCRs that they made, started to devalue an ulti in an OTS pack. And
I'm going to have a super hot take here real quick. I think it was a good thing when they took away ultis, only because they went from everything in the rares through ultras could be ultis to hand picking them, and the hand picking them really ruined the ultis. If you remember, they downed it to like 7 different ultis a set, and to that point, even when it was an exciting one, it kind of lost its luster, especially with the new foil application where it doesn't work into the picture. When Construct, Shadow Construct was meta, it was a $24 ultra rare and a $28 ultimate rare. So Konami saw that their decision making wasn't working out, and that's about the time they pulled them out of the sets and made them more exclusive. And I think that actually was a smart pivot. And all of a sudden, they were making good decisions when they couldn't with the core sets, which was a bit odd.
So
but
that's what I was gonna say. Is I think that I liked them in mainline sets. When they changed it, it kind of sucked, but like I was like, whatever, it's fine because of what you're saying. We're like, the decisions were generally good in OTS packs a few years ago. Would we agree with this? Like generally, like I think that they were pretty good, like ultis. I think now. So here's my case study for just my personal anecdote. I play Voiceless Voice. I was excited to get ulti copies of Low when she was in the OTS pack. I know not that many people were into it because the deck didn't really do super great in the competitive scene, but like for me, that was a cool max rarity thing. You can probably see where I'm going with this.
No, a lot of people wanted it in Herald.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll have like ulti Heralds, or ulti Diviners or whatever. It'll be fun. But then I looked at sort of the values and I was like, well, I like the look of ulti, so I'm totally allowed to have it. But then also like the QCR lows are, I guess, are those the max rarity or is the ulti the max rarity? And like it gets into my thing where I think one of you mentioned this earlier. It's good to have an established and hard to get max rarity version of a card, but in printing so many rarities, the rarity disparity as we're calling it, it kind of can make it like weird if you're like the sort of player who wants to bling out a deck and have it like in a single max rarity. Is that like just a me problem? Has anyone else experienced?
I think you're right. I think it just like comes down to what is harder to pull in some senses, but there is no clear winner between those two.
And I think that now that you're saying that, I think that the rarity confusion of like what's the best rarity could be another reason that people are just like, like before
they just
it's like
check out.
You're like, I want to get the high rarity of these cards. I want to pull these new Starlights, or I want to collect all the champion pack cards for my GOAT or my collection or whatever. So you kind of know what you're going for and what you need to do. And like if there's a new one comes out, new Starlight's like, oh, okay, I need this. I want that Starlight rare. Well, now it's like there's a Starlight, there's an ulti, like you said, in the OTS pack. There's
a
new,
prismatic
QCR,
collectors from something.
And you're like, well, what do I even want? Like, I don't know. There's just so many different
things. The
sheer
abundance of them actually devalues all of them.
Yeah, and it's almost like there was a everyone kind of knew. Like if you're going for the big card, you're going for this, you're going for that. And now it's kind of like everybody's like, well, you like the ulti, and you like the QCR, and you like the Starlight, and now we're just kind of all just confused. Like,
yeah, like that's kind of the sense that I get.
What is the cool card here? Like I like this one, but somebody's telling me that I need to get the QCR, but I don't really like the QCR that much.
And John, I think you're right that like the card choices for the OTS packs has certainly been weaker in the last few years. I think that the two problems I've observed is one, literally just they'll make like a weird choice. Like Dark Fusion kind of seemed strange. Like just it'll like be some card that's because like OTS packs are for people who enter tournaments. So it sort of makes sense that the cards that are in an OTS, like ulti slot, should be meaningful cards from the tournament scene. But when it's a card that either didn't take off in the competitive scene really at all, like that's kind of where like Dark Fusion and stuff comes to mind. But also like,
Dark Fusion was specifically because of Supreme Darkness and tying into that.
Yeah, it's like a tie-in and it didn't...
And the holographics actually got bought out right before that. So it's funny because I covered this recently. Dark Fusion Ultimate Rare was all the way down to $3.50 along with Big Welcome Labyrinth. Our first ever ultis under $5 from these packs.
And Big Welcome Labyrinth is another example of like QCR came in and like cannibalized that. And I'm not saying
so many that we've mentioned, right? Diviner had that happen. Low had that happen.
Yeah.
Sage with Eyes of Blues recently had that happen. So the cannibalization just continues, and it's so fast too. They don't give it any breathing.
Yeah,
room.
that's the thing. Like, there's very little space between these high rarity prints, And then the second thing that I was going to mention too is sometimes
I
they're
want to
like,
actually, I do want to cut in here because it's very important. These OTS packs are the lifeblood of the companies that choose to actually host OTS tournaments. It is the draw. It's the reason people come in. When Blue Eyes started coming out, so many people were like, oh, I finally have a reason to play tournaments again. I saw that more than anywhere. I finally have a reason to go back in and play and actually try to compete for something. And hearing that finally made me realize just how bad people were seeing all the past OTS packs.
yeah, I agree. Something that I was gonna add too is just that I do sometimes think that they've been getting behind the curve on what the ultis they include are. Like, I remember when they did like ulti, was it Tearlament's Rhino Heart, when it was just kind of like moving out of the meta, and like they low, like even with like ulti low, like it came quite late, and Voice's voice had kind of already been like shifted out, and so sometimes I think that the cards that they pick. And I know that's a difficult line to walk since things can be dynamic and like whatever, but I think it all combines to make it feel like the OTS
They've
pack.
proved they can do it faster with Thunder Dragon Colossus. They've proved they
Yeah,
cannot drag their heels. Because everyone complained, oh, it's a reprint, but it's an upgrade, so it's not a real reprint. I want cheap Colossus. I remember everyone complaining about it, but that was relatively fast versus what happens these days.
yeah. So that's kind of our bit on an OTS ultis. Another thing that I was going to ask is, so this feels a little pivoty. What happened to structure decks? It sort of feels like we just, Fire King in late 2023, we go over a year without a structure. We get Blue Eyes in this year, and then we had another drought. Now I know there's that Legendary Collections 5Ds kind of structure deck import thing, which does seem exciting. I think people will probably like that. But do we, the absence of structure decks are we sensing any problem there?
I think it's because the OCG is so on tactical tri decks, and so they're scared to import that here and figure out a model that's successful for us. And I think that's kind of the problem, actually. I think tactical tri decks could be pivoted to be good here, but Konami is so bad with actually revamping product to sell to the TCG that maybe they just know that they can't sell that. Like, they don't have the competence to craft it into a product for us.
Ruxin, what about you? I mean, I know that this does sort of pivot away from like the idea of maybe like collecting and like opening, because this is just more of like an entryway product, but I do think it's...
Yeah.
Well, they actually, not to take Ruxin's spotlight here, but they actually did turn them into collectibles with the Chase Starlights.
Yeah, and those are extremely hard to pull. Like, I think they're 1 in 48 or something like that.
Yeah, they're crazy. People bought displays hoping to get one, and I was like, Konami said on their page they'll be extremely rare, and if Konami's warning you something's hard to pull, it's gonna be hard to pull.
Yeah, I think I opened 8 decks or something, like whatever comes in the one box. I think I opened 8 and I didn't get any. Though I will say the Blue Eyes decks were cool because as a casual, I was like, oh, Blue Eyes, I can just like build the whole deck basically by buying a couple of these decks. So I did think those were pretty nice if you wanted to play Blue Eyes. They had most of at least the old Blue Eyes cards and a lot of the new Blue Eyes cards. So they were pretty decent, but I guess they're just not releasing a ton of structure. I don't really keep up with the other structures if they're not like boomer.
Oh, we have the Albaz structure on the horizon too that's all foil, but they're charging double for it. I think there's actually some exciting like things potentially to come with those announcements. And it'll be a simultaneous release with the OCG. So it seems like they are ramping back up these pre-made decks to some degree, but it's like, will the 2 new cards bring Branded to the forefront? It gets better as an engine, but not as a playable deck, probably.
See, I guess for me, I'm always such a big advocate for onboarding products, and I feel like it's strange because I was doing a video recently where I was going through all the retro OG structure decks or whatever, like the Flame Emperor versus Fury from the Deep and stuff like that. And I realized that from January 2005 to January 2007, a exactly 2-year span, they released 10 structure decks. And they were even doing the thing where they released them in pairs. And it's just so interesting to see now, like, this huge delay in structures. I mean, and that even continued, like, even kind of in like the 2010 to 2013 period or so, like, we would get like a new structure like every, 3-4 months. And I guess, do we think that that's just a matter of like, our structure decks, do they not sell well, or is it more like, well, we'd rather
Some of them
cram
do and
them into
some don't.
boxes?
I
Like,
think
I
it's
remember
very
with the
hit.
Ghost set they did, the first Ghost from the Past, was it? Where like it had
Yeah.
the Dragoonity structure just in the pack. Like they just kind of shoved it into the pack.
And
that
the
was something-
agent one.
Yeah, and the agent one too. And so like, I kind of was like, I don't love that idea. I think that those are probably just, those might have been better as structure decks, but I might be more unpopular in that opinion. What are we
I
thinking?
think the agent one would have been a very hard sell. I think the Dragoonity one might have done okay. The Dark World one recently really flopped. The Traptrix one did well for itself because it actually had a meta impact. So I think Konami tries to look at it. Will this actually be topping a regional? And the answer for a lot of them is not enough. Like the Synchro starter also, I think it had like a couple cards that went up in price and that was it. Like it as a deck is not going to be taking over, but some of the cards were useful. So I think when Konami's looking at this and this has failed, it has to be structured this way and actually have this kind of impact now to not sit and rot on shelves. Because I think stores, even though it's cheaper in, structure decks take up more space, and that's precious in the card game community because stores are not just stocking Yu-Gi-Oh, it's Magic, it's Pokemon, it's all these other competing card games now that are coming out too. It's just Yu-Gi-Oh has so much competition. And so to fight for space and have a bigger block of the shelf taken up by something that's cheaper, it has to have an impact and move, I think.
And they used to, going back to things we've said many times in this, they used to just be able to sell decks because there was an Ash Blossom reprint or whatever. Like, there was one card. I remember I'd go to Walmart and there'd be people there buying like 3 just to get their play set of whatever staple it was. And it'd be some average
true.
deck. It'd be like, I think it was like Spirit Charmers or something, had some
Yeah.
good reprints in it or something. And people were like actually buying that deck just to get the staples. And now it's like, well, you can get the staples in Rarity or whatever. Like,
Yeah,
$1
Rarity
or
collection.
It's really
Yeah.
funny you say Ash Blossom and stuff. Like Kaiba Collection is coming back, and that's an
Right.
even bigger product. And they're, as far as we
I'm-
know, not revamping anything inside.
Yeah, that one
And
seems odd. I mean,
Oh, they're
not that odd
definitely
because I
not
know it
revamping
sells
anything in
well,
that.
but like, yeah, it's
Okay.
okay.
I personally will open it, but I don't know if anybody else is gonna.
Like, remember when they actually would revamp product, even if it was a little, like the Kaiba Duelist pack, and they updated the foiling on the ultimate rares?
Yeah.
Like, they actually would change a little something inside. Like, I wish they would be like, oh, we know you already have a lot of these cards, so at least, like, let's plant in 5 hard to get, 1 per case Starlights to give the people who are opening this for nostalgia something to get once in a while.
That everybody was kind of hoping would be in those 25th anniversary boxes, and they weren't.
Yeah, the reprints, like, it's like you've already updated the foil layout for the first time ever. Add a little something in.
Imagine
And,
if there was
no.
like a 1 per case in those. That would have been crazy. And they already did. I mean, the LOB did well. Everything else.
Yeah, because a lot of people just got those not to open, but to actually like put in little display cases and like have a piece of Yu-Gi-Oh history rather than actually open. And so the cards inside just aren't worth opening even still now. They've actually gone down as the boxes have gone up for a lot of them. And so like it would have been cool to see something inside to actually chase after that was like relatively new, since you're already updating the layout.
So, what's the fix? How, kind of, I guess, to get into the big conclusion here, what are the practical, like, ways that these major problems can be addressed? Because I think, there are some things that we all, like, want, right? Like, oh, it'd be nice if they did this, nice if they did this. What do we think realistically Konami can do to, like, fix the high level issues going on right now? Because I've heard so many solutions. I know people are like, just do mixed rarity systems, do, like, just make the boxes cheaper or something, or take out all the comment. You'll hear so much. Practically speaking,
I have a very
what
specific
works?
and systematic way to do this. It's going back to the 2019 product model where you have 7 commons, a rare, and a super minimum per pack. Make everything ultra to rare, ultimate rare at 1 per box. And so there's just so many different ones to pull that they eventually can age well. Down it to 5 Starlights and have an import Starlight again instead of having 20 freaking 4 of them or whatever they're doing right now. have 5 different starlights and down the pull rate again and make that a true chase, so it is the king rarity in the set, and then do a box topper like the OCG does. So we're bringing a little more of that OCG model, as well as don't short print anything in the core sets you don't need to. We've seen it with cards like Cyverse, what's the Cyverse search spell?
Silent mining, yeah.
Yes, it was overprinted, and yet it started out low and was able to age well and have people revisit product. We have no reason to revisit product right now, and this does all of that. Being able to actually pull the cards by going back if something else comes out and ties into the product, having unique rarities to chase after of a lot of different cards that are still going to be sparse enough that you're not seeing them all the time, and then still getting special hits per box, yet you're not getting the most special one like multiple times a case. Like you win on every level. You give something to the collectors, you give something to the casual, you give something to the competitors, and you give cards that are actually at a pullable rate. I am very much for people being able to obtain the cards they want, because that's been the successful model through all of Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Successful products is actually being worth diving into the product, and you've seen that decline since 2019 versus the all foil side sets disappearing versus the core sets choking out ratios. You have to bring back pullable card ratios for the average player.
And as the king of revisiting product, like you just said, it really is important that is something that they work on, because that's why all the boxes are so cheap now. It's like you don't need to go back and buy them, and you don't need to go back and open them, and I don't even want to go back and open the last few years for most of the sets because they just suck. So and you're like, yeah, let me go open this box and get nothing. That's what's gonna happen, and I'm gonna spend $40, and it's like it's just a bad set. So I like everything John said. The only thing I would say about yours is, for the 5 starlights, I would like that to be another rarity completely. Like, wash the taste of starlights out of our mouth, because we've kind of been burned on them so many times. If it was like 5 of this new thing, like make a new thing that doesn't look like CR or like starlight, but it's the new high rarity, and then you can rebuild faith that this is going to actually be a high rarity card, and then you can do those 1 ultis per box or whatever you want to do, or even starlights or whatever. I think ultis would be cooler. But
yeah, full arts are perfectly acceptable for Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, people are like, oh, it's so iconic. Look at Rush over rares. We can do it where it's instantly identifiable and still breaks the card mold and is exciting. We can still do that with Yu-Gi-Oh and still have it be Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, exactly. And then you don't have to deal with, oh, this has been in 48 megatons or whatever. And it's like, oh, this is a cool new thing I'm excited about. And they've only ever been, 1 per case or whatever. So they're really, really hard to get. And then they do not make the same mistake they've made and start putting them in tins and everything else like that. And keep those as like a top rarity thing, reprint of like a lower rarity or whatever. But it's like the full art or alt art full art or whatever they want to do with it. So I like that. I think that would do really well. And I think, I don't know if you guys watched my video, and I don't know if it's a complete perfect idea, but I still think that we need another like entryway format for people to play. And
Rush Duel is it, but it wouldn't tie directly into Yu-Gi-Oh.
I personally want it to be something that is not too different, not like Speed Duel, because that was like 3 zones and everything. Though Speed Duel I thought was okay, but something where it's very similar to like older Yu-Gi-Oh, that's a lot easier to just jump into, whether you're a previous player or just a new player completely. You could completely understand how Yu-Gi-Oh works, and then if you want to continue on and get more complicated, you hop into advanced and you learn all that stuff. But I really wish there was a way for, hey man, hey Ruxin, I just found my old cards. Can you tell me what they're worth? To jump from that point where a lot of people are, where they message me and then they go, how do I play Yu-Gi-Oh? And they try to play Master Duel and get decimated. Like, it's just such a long leap for them. I wish there was some middle ground where it's like, hey, you should go try the retro format or whatever. Like, you can go hop on Master Duel. It's another ladder, or it's another option. You get on there, you just hop in and play a random person. You can play older Yu-Gi-Oh or something like that, where they hop in and all of a sudden they're like, oh yeah, I can do this. Like, I just summon a card, a set a card, whatever. It's like, I don't need to special summon, link summon, all these different ones, like things I've never done before and I'm not going to figure out right away. And it needs that one step. It needs that one step, and that can help fix everything, in my opinion.
I think it's actually two steps. Sorry to interrupt real quick because you mentioned support also, like officially on Master Duel, officially there, and that's what has killed every alternate format they've ever made. Generation Duel came out, and like they couldn't even run 8-man tournaments at the side events at the time. I remember vendors walking on and walking off with a playmat without even playing. So like it's that support and also clarity, and they just don't seem to have that direct to voice marketing to say, hey, brand new thing, this is how it works. Remember how confused just with speed duels. Can I use my cards in speed duels? Can I use speed duel cards in Yu-Gi-Oh? And
I hated that. I hated that there was a rule for which cards could be used where. I think all the cards should be able to be used everywhere, because if you start adding more qualifiers, it gets every qualifier. That's a reason I want it to be not like
it's another step of
like,
friction.
oh, in this version you only get 3 zones, and in Rush Duel, oh, you actually get more than 1 normal summon.
But they're so scared if like they don't lock the product of whatever new format they make that they won't be able to sell something. When it's like, hey, you're keeping your game alive.
And it's like, hey, the other ones weren't selling when you locked them behind something. So maybe try something different that you can actually use the other cards for. You know, it's like, oh, I already have some of these cards. And then you can release some new cards that go with them. And then they need those cards to get their deck or whatever.
And they bothered to craft a tournament pack, and the highest rarity was ultra rare. And like that's not exciting. That's not all that exciting.
Speed Duel tournament. Don't get me started on the Speed Duel tournament.
And that's the other thing about every side format is it never gets a main event. They relegate it to side events at tournaments, and that's why it's also so hard to get traction. The first Speed Duel stream had 10,000 viewers towards the finals, and people were so excited, and it was this huge thing. And then it just drops off the face of the earth, relegated to side events at tournaments, to where 8 people played for a Hollow Doom Cal Giant card.
I was going to say,
I actually liked Speed Duel. I thought it was good. It's just they didn't ever. It just didn't feel like they ever wanted it to work.
Yeah, it does not.
It's funny you guys mentioned that, because I actually do. I would probably in the future I want to do like a similar video to this, where we sort of like going through these, I hate to say it, just failed alt formats, because there are so many, and like some seem like they had potential. Like I remember John, you were talking about Generation Duel. I remember like that.
I was the first ever top.
And
I took the pendulum map, baby, because I didn't build a deck for it.
But
I had side deck decks for it. Like there was the Exodia deck, and I had Droll and Lockbird.
But what I will say is sort of generally what comes to mind for like this product issue thing is I think that Konami's got to like chill with the rarity slop, for lack of a better word. That's not Rarity collection saying that it's slop, although you could make that argument, but more like just chill with the kind of overprinting of the luxury rarities. I really
Rarity
do think
overload.
The Rarity overload, it's bad.
Rarity collection overload, is that next?
You know they'll do it. They'll do it. But you know, like I do think that we got to kind of pull that back. And then my other thing, and this is sort of similar to what Ruxin's saying, I guess, is you guys know I'm kind of known for the mid-core Yu-Gi-Oh rant thing. I really do believe that, you know, Heart of the Underdog is, you know, we were speaking of like alternative formats. Heart of the Underdog has always seemed promising, but Konami seems so scared to like, they always keep it at such arm's length. They always seem afraid to like, they themselves give a statement on what is or isn't allowed in it. And there are some benefits to that. It's like, oh cool, your locals can kind of just decide for itself and it'll be fine. But I think that putting more of an official voice and stamp to that, and like marketing to that, where when I open Supreme Darkness, which that set in particular was one of the ones that had a lot of support for a lot of different decks, but none of them are decks that do well in the tournament scene. Like, you know, there needs to be a place for those cards to be used, because otherwise it just feels like they're truly pack filler. Like they will end up in a landfill, because I think for me, that's how you bring some of the joy and interest of opening back into local card shops, is just simply when you pull a neat looking common that's got a cool effect, or it's like support for some archetype, you feel like there's somewhere that can be played. And while that doesn't directly address like the sort of products and prices and rarities thing, because like they're all common at the end of the
No,
day.
it actually does.
But yeah,
it does a lot more than you think, because right now the bulk market is completely out. The bulk market's pretty much dead.
Yeah.
And that gives value to a ton of those cards that otherwise would sit and rot there forever, like you're talking about. And when you lift the bottom of the market, it lifts every aspect of the market. So that's Konami's incentive to do that. They feel like they don't maybe directly have one, but they do, because it helps stores, which helps stores buy more product, which helps them sell more product, which gives Konami more money. But Konami typically is too short-sighted to see this kind of thing. But that would lift the entirety of the market up from the bottom up, and that is a very smart thing to do.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I would like that. Sorry, go ahead.
When I do like pack openings, like I kind of mentioned this earlier, but whenever I see a Goat or Edison card, I'm pulling it out. And a same thing for when I'm opening older packs that might have an expensive card that hasn't had a reprint or whatever. And there's like an expensive common or something. Like whenever I'd open Pharaonic Guardian, it's like Trap Dust Shoots are coming out, Metamorphosis, Made in the Aqua. Like it made opening those packs, it's like I don't need to hit an ultra for me to have a successful, in quotes, pack. Like I don't have to like make my money back, but like I get something out of the pack.
Right.
Cool, this is exciting because I know this can go somewhere. I know this can go in Goat. I know this can go in Edison. I know people need
place
this for
to play the
format.
cards, right? Like just a place for these cards, because they don't have a place.
So if you had new stuff where your commons go into Heart of the Underdog or whatever, you pull that, you're like, that's a Heart of the Underdog card. I feel like I had a pretty decent pack right there.
I think a situation that comes up so much and again, now this isn't getting into the onboarding topic, which is a separate video, so like I won't go on this for too long, but when I see somebody who they want to play a sort of lower middling power level format of Yu-Gi-Oh! Like people will say, okay, well, like if you can't hang with this, Ryzeal Malice and now like the Justice Center stuff, then like too bad, that's what's good, deal with it. If you don't want that, go play Edison. And this is nothing against Edison. I think Edison's fine. It's just that what about the person who wants to play their Nouvelle cards, right?
Yeah.
Or like they want to play just their like Suship cards. Like these archetypes they're not beating, Ryzeal, Mitsurugi or something, but they're still new cards. So so I can't play them Edison, and I can't really play them in Modern. So like
you got 15 years there to work with,
right? And so it's like, so where do I play that? And
So again, I think this comes down to Konami's communication product, which is a pretty darn easy fix. Like, get a mouthpiece that is direct and easy to clarify instead of this poor intern that keeps uploading things early on Twitter. Like, go ahead and get, that communication of, hey, we're going to do this special tournament. Similar to how Master Duel makes those cards playables, right? Like, you have the rank 5 and under. We're going to do this special tournament with this special one-time prizing for these playmats, even if it's a special playmat to play.
I'm telling you, if they were to do that, I really do think that there's so much untapped potential there. Like in real life tournaments with that.
This is where they are dropping the ball pretty hard with their content creators. Like, first of all, they don't really have that many right now, but for the people they actually do, they shouldn't just be doing box openings of the new set. Like, they should be promoting this niche stuff. Like, find the right person, like an Edison content creator. If you're going to promote like a Time Wizard thing, get them to promote it to their audience. That's all the right people. And all you have to do is be like, hey man, can you work with us? Like, all we need you to do is promote this new thing we're doing. Or like, oh, let's get more of a casual, like current person who might want to promote like Heart of the Underdog. Maybe they get like Team APS, there's like a Heart of the Underdog like tournament happening where they're giving away this really cool like giant card or whatever. And they're not doing that. They're not promoting the way, they're just tweeting stuff. And it's like,
you'll open the box and you'll like the cards.
It's just like, it feels like the content creators side, like they could be using those people to like hit the right audiences for certain things that they're not even like attempting to do. And it's like, if you just like get those people to promote it, you could make this stuff work, but you're not doing anything.
Do y'all remember the content creator Dual Overload opening where sign up mining was short? They gave them even extra boxes and they still couldn't pull it.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the problem. Like, all they do is hand them product, smile and open. Oh, you didn't sign it. Maybe it'll be in here.
Yay, my third green gadget. Yeah, okay. Well, thank you guys so much. This really was enlightening because I think, like, I'm glad to kind of hear some of my product thoughts validated a little bit, if nothing else. I hope honestly, that anybody watching or listening to this, we do want to see Yu-Gi-Oh be better, right? And
Yeah,
I think
of
for all
course.
three of us, we have played for so long, or just kind of been involved in some way for so long that we've seen it be better in the past, right? Like, we have seen
Yeah.
the golden
And this
ages,
isn't a
and so,
boomer take at all.
yeah, I
Like,
think that
it
all of
is
this
a
can all
mathematical.
coexist within like the modern context, right? Like this isn't like, yeah, like I want Giant Soldier of Stone back. No, none of this
Yeah,
has, yeah, right.
I'm
Like,
saying
Attack the moon!
2019. 2019 was good. I'm not going too far back. Like, I'm
so
not saying back in my day.
so thanks so much for both of your time. Anyone listening, I hope that you guys enjoyed this too. Seriously, hear us out and let us know in the comments, like, what are your thoughts on this product crisis? How is it affecting you, if at all? What do you think would be the best solutions? What's practical? What's impractical? And I'm certain that somebody from Konami will probably find themselves listening to this at some point. So, hopefully we helped you guys, Konami employee, whoever you are. Yeah, cool. Any your kind of quick closing thoughts? Anything that we maybe didn't cover, or
Let me go through your list here real quick.
John's gonna have something. I mean,
Yeah.
I do feel like we hit like most of the high points. I feel like I do want to maybe do a future video too that's like kind of talking about the alt format stuff and kind of like the onboarding stuff, because they're separate but related issues. So there's definitely something to be had there.
So a lot of people, I want to wrap up because this will be in the comments most likely, just say adopt the OCG model. And I don't believe that truly one for one comes over. I have heard a lot of people bring up simultaneous release, which we're getting the first experimentation with the Albaz deck. And we do slowly see product schedule ramping up a little. I do think that simultaneous release would be good, but I do think that for the TCG model, it needs to be slightly different, but could heavily improve and borrow some inspiration from, like I said, the box topper, the multiple rarities, the increased pull rates. It can borrow a lot of inspiration, but I don't think one for one it works as well here necessarily.
It might help that they haven't solved every meta deck by the time it gets to us. Like you at least have to do some experimentation yourself. I guess people will be doing that early anyway. So
I do think that experimentation thing is pretty key, because like when it feels like products are solved, I think that adds one more layer on the fact that like mainline sets are good thing or bust, right? Because like now even just going into it, you already know. Like I know that there was a time in Yu-Gi-Oh where like new sets might have felt more like there's more room to explore, and so the value of things can like you can feel like you'd made a good decision in like picking up something and like that, right?
Perfect point. Yeah, used to it would take like 3 weeks for something to start to go up and skyrocket, and now it's like the weekend of release, 3 things are getting bought out and everything else is falling.
Yeah.
So like, remember Tour Guide was $40 for a while, and then suddenly popped to 120 and then 300. Like it's more like you still had that opportunity to go, hey, $40 Tour Guide. And now it's like, oh, there goes the spike week 1 on these cards.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we can get influenced, like people can get influenced, like, well, the OCG didn't see anything with these cards or whatever, so I'm not going to buy it. And it's possible, like sometimes they might have missed something. Like they're not always 100% correct. And we just don't even bother because we're like, sucked over there. It's not going to be good here. Don't need to bother. I'm going to not
or the opposite, like Dragoon where it needed a ban list here.
Right.
So I agree, like that would be really cool. But okay, I guess we'll wrap it here. This was fun. Hopefully everybody enjoyed it, and make sure you guys both go check out House of Champions and also Ruxin34, and I guess Ruxin Live, because that feels like that's where, if you want more of this specifically, that's probably where you find
this
it.
Content will be on Ruxin Live probably.
So yeah, thanks guys for your time. I really appreciate it, and we'll talk again soon.